Hi there, so back for another devlog video. So this time I want to talk about Endgame. This is, I would say, my primary focus for the game. So there's 6 endgame modes currently in the game. 7th will be added later during beta. So those endgame modes, you have Conquest. So this is where you enter a zone and you have a random modifier applied to the enemies within that zone. It could be increased damage, increased health, immune to fire, immune to cold. Lots of different modifiers. I think at the moment there's about 12 different modifiers that you can have. And obviously I'll be adding to this over time as well. So you work your way through this zone. It's filled with thematic enemies. So at the moment there's Barricade, is the sample endgame mode that I've got in at the moment. And it's filled with orcs. So it's split into 3 different zones. So you make your way through the first zone, killing a bunch of orcs and then a mini boss. You get into the next zone and the modifier will change. So if you're a fire build, for example, you've gone through the first zone, the modifier was increased damage, let's say, on enemies. You've made it through that, you're fine. You've gone into the second zone, immune to fire damage. What do? So I'd really advise running multiple element builds, and the game leans quite heavily towards that. So those familiar with Diablo 2 will be well aware of the concept. You can't just rely on one damage type and expect to bulldoze your way through the game. It's just not going to happen. There will be ways around this by like penetration, that kind of like reducing enemies' resistance. There will be ways to do that. However, you can't rely on that because you might not have access to that straight away. So yeah, anyway, I digress. You reach the second zone, same again, filled with enemies, filled with a mini boss. You make your way through, you reach the third zone, and there you'll find a super boss. So these are like the ultimate challenge in Sanctum Breach. There's a bunch of them. Bosses are in 3 categories: mini boss, main boss, and super boss. If you defeat the super boss, you're gaining, potentially gain a relic, which is an item associated with the super boss. So they're quite powerful. They're 5 stat items. I think they're sort of ranked 3rd, 4th best item in the game. Obviously it depends for your build, your stats, all that kind of thing. And then there'll be loot chests as well. So they'll drop lots of loot, as the name suggests. And you also get currency associated with Conquest. And I'll explain what that's for later on. So next game mode, boss encounters. So this is a 1v1 against the super boss. That's it. Kill the boss, collect the loot, move on. Easy. You also get currency associated with this as well. The next mode is arenas. So there'll be a variety of different arenas. At the moment, the one that I've got at the moment is a sample, because there's a sample of each in the game at the moment. Is 10 waves of static enemies, so every single time you're going to face the same enemies, and then there's a fight against a boss at the end. More target farming, more loot chests, because every ARPG player loves loot. But there's going to be a whole variety of different arenas, so it'll be like randomized encounters. Some might just be against a series of bosses, some might be no bosses. Just a whole bunch of different things. I plan on having about 15 to 30 different varieties for each endgame mode. So like 30 different super bosses, 30 different conquests, and these will be split over 10 tiers of difficulty. And some of them will feature more than once. So say you really like, the dragon super boss that's currently in the game. He'll be available from tier 1 to tier 3, so you can grind him for quite a while before needing to move on, because the XP or the loot is no longer suitable for your level. So yeah, moving on to... and you'll get currency associated with arena as well. The next I call these like the base game modes, is Mythical Trials, and this wraps up the 4 base game modes. Mythical Trials, at the moment, the sample is against the Phoenix. So you fight the Phoenix once, it dies, it gets reborn further on in the map, and when it's reborn it gains access to new skills and becomes stronger. You kill the Phoenix 3 times, and then it's properly dead this time in the final form. You kill the final form, it's gone. There's a few enemies in between, just sort of like trash mobs. and you gain currency associated with that again. Mythical Trials is kind of like a hybrid between Conquest and boss encounters, and it's got a different rule set based on the mythical creature that you're fighting. So like if it's Minotaur, for example, you'll be in the Minotaur's maze and you have to try and find the Minotaur, but you'll be haunted by like ghostly versions throughout, and you have the choice to kill these because they will take damage. You can kill them. However, if you do, it will reduce the overall loot that you get from the Minotaur at the end. It will reduce the difficulty as well, so it may be your only way to kill him until you're comfortable enough, and then you can make the choice: do I fight a harder version and do I get more or potentially better loot, or do I fight a weaker version, I'm safer, and then I can get a little bit of loot and some XP and progress. Because I mentioned previously in the overview video, but all endgame is roguelite, so if you die, you'll be reverted back to the state that you was at previously before you entered. So it's really important that you ensure that you can make your way through the entire content, and if you feel like you're going to die or you're at risk, then you need to make that decision. Do I teleport out, or do I carry on and risk it? So with those 4 in-game currencies, you'll be able to enter something called chaotic encounters. So this is a 1v1, 1v2 or 1v3 fight against super bosses, and this can be any super boss in the game. So this gives you the opportunity to get their specific loot, their relics, that you may have not been able to do because it might be locked behind a higher tier of difficulty that you haven't yet reached, or it could be tied to the Endless Abyss. We'll get onto this later. So yeah, it just gives you the opportunity to gain massive amounts of loot. But obviously it can be very, very difficult depending on the bosses that you fight, so you need to pick your battles carefully. The next one is Endless Abyss. So this is a series of floors. It's endless, as the name suggests. So this is where you can really like push your character and see just how far you are, and it's a really solid way to gain decent amounts of XP and loot as well as you go. So it's currently 5 floors that just gets repeated over and over again. It have the same enemies, same mini bosses, and then you'll fight a super boss every 5 floors, so floor 6, 11, you know, keep going. So this is a great way to gain relics as well, because all the mini bosses will have relics associated with them, and obviously mini bosses are quite easy to kill as well. So it's a really nice way to get those sort of starting relics and build you up to endgame sort of gear. And you'll be dipping in and out of Endless Abyss throughout the entirety of your character's life, really. So it's something that you might do like 5, 10, 15 floors on, and then you get stuck. You go away, do something else, and then come back to it, do a little bit more, you know, that kind of thing. It was quite influenced by Greater Rifts from Diablo 3. It's very similar to that. There'll also be mercenaries that you can summon during the Endless Abyss. You get a choice of 4 mercenaries, and these are kind of like from Diablo 2, except you can't equip items on them, but they'll follow you around. They have their own skills. They're basically super minions, that's kind of what they are. But they'll follow you, they'll help you, and you get to choose which ones you want. So that's the 6 game modes that are currently in the game. There's going to be a 7th added. I'm planning on doing this sort of sooner rather than later, but obviously it's subject to change. But it's a yet to be named crafting dungeon. And the idea with this is that it's set up in a similar fashion to Endless Abyss, in that it goes on forever, it'll progress, it'll scale, and you'll be able to fight a series of enemies and bosses. The enemies will drop things called essence. So with essence, you can craft any item in the game, but like the base of that item. So you might be able to craft like a leather cow with no stats on it, or I can't even think of items now, like an adamantium plate with no stats on it. And then from there, using essence again, you'll be able to add any stat that you want to this item. For those that aren't aware, in Sanctum Breach, you can have 3 of the same prefix and 3 of the same suffix. So it follows the same pattern in like prefixes and suffixes, and it draws from their own pool of stats and associated values. But the difference here is that you can have 3 lots of crit chance, 3 lots of crit damage on one item. So obviously it enables these like crazy sort of builds. I'll talk about that a little bit more in the character customization video. But yeah, so you pick a stat, you attach that stat to the item, and then if you want to attach another stat, then you increase the rarity of the item, so it becomes more expensive, all the way up to legendary, where stats cost a lot of essence to add, but you can have 6 of them. So you can really sort of tailor items to your build. You can really focus on what you need at that specific time. And then the other thing is bosses drop rune stones. So these rune stones will have a random modifier associated with them from any other item in the game. So say it's from I forget what it's called now. Sorry, I'm terrible with item names. I come up with them, I forget them, I move on. But there's an item, a unique that enables you to cast a fireball on hit. It'll come to me after the video. And then say your runestone has that modifier associated with it, so the fireball on hit, you can then attach that to this item that you've created. So this legendary, it's got 3 crit chance, 3 crit damage, you're loving life, you're going to kill everything, and then you add this fireball passive to that item as well. And suddenly you've got a unique on your hands, but with stats that you've chosen. Obviously, spoiler, this is going to be a massive grind to get items like that. But I'm just saying the possibility is there, so you can really sort of push your character, and because of how difficult the game and Endgame in particular is going to be, in order to beat these sort of like tier 10 encounters, you will need items like this. That's why they exist. It's why you have the possibility to boost your character so much from this sort of lowly peasant with common items to this god with handmade uniques and all the affixes that you could wish for. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers Endgame. If anyone's got any questions about it, or if people that have already been playing the game feel like I've skipped over something or missed something, then feel free to clarify in the comments. I'm sure we had lots of discussions about Endgame in the comments, and I can't wait for it because I love Endgame. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video, and we'll talk about character development and really how you can build your character. So yeah, see you next time.